education system yesterday. And today we're talking to him live about it. Let's turn it over to 24-hour News 8 political reporter Rick Albert.
Thanks, Sue, and let's get Governor Snyder right in here this afternoon, because Governor Snyder, you laid out a big plan yesterday about education. It reminded me of your budget plan. It had a lot of big, broad strokes. Your budget plan, as we know, has been moving through over in the Senate and in the House. Today, you got the Senate to pass that compromise bill that deals with taxing pensions and doing away with the MBT, and now you've introduced this big education plan, and already people are starting to weigh in on it. Tell me, if you can, what you hope you can achieve if you can implement that education policy you outlined yesterday.
Well, Rick, I appreciate the question, because it's about reinventing our educational system. It's a broken system. The numbers are staggering in terms of the tragedy. If you look at it, only 16% of our students on the last ACT test would be considered college ready. 16%. So although we have good people in the system is failing. And what we need to do is get a system that's going to work for the long term and really focus on the kids and their success. And what this package does is really get down to focusing on student growth, not about spending money or other issues. It's all focused on the students, their growth, their achievement, the ability to make them successful, and creating an environment for teachers to have a more active role, to be more involved, and to get those numbers from the 16% number to where it should be. The only number that really matters is getting to 100%.
One of the things you talked about is expanding the schools of choice and allowing parents to have more of a say where their kids may go, even if they don't live in that jurisdiction. You also talked about dual enrollments and having the money follow the children. What would you say to a school district, or maybe the parents in a district that pays an extra millage to take care of school properties that somebody in another jurisdiction doesn't pay, but yet they want to send their child to that school?
Well, a couple things. One is when first of all, that district would take care of the children in that district. So that's the priority. It's only if they had space available, that they said they had space, that these kids would be able to come. And when you look at it, those dollars from the state would come along with that to that district to help cover those costs. So there would be resources coming with that student. To the degree there are extra millages and such, I ask people to step back for a second and say, isn't this an opportunity to help a child succeed? And isn't that the most important question, is helping individual children be successful in a system that overall we're failing them? So whatever we can do to help one child, two child, but hopefully hundreds of thousands of children succeed is something I believe we should all be supportive of.
You talked about lifting the cap on charters. Is that, in your mind, a way of generating some type of competition within the education arena, so that people will have a choice, and then, as you have talked about in the past, all schools will have to apply best practices to compete, if you will, for those students?
Well, it is very much a best practice focus. And a couple things I said that relate to it, to get to your point, is one is we're going to hold charters to the same standards as public schools, and we're going to increase those standards for all schools about how they need to perform. So I think that's important. And with respect to school districts that have a failing school, that's where we said we would not have a cap on charters, so there would be more opportunity for those kids to succeed. So it's only really in those districts where there's a failing school would we lift the charter cap. But I believe that's appropriate in that case to have educational choice and success, because again, the focus isn't about what school they go to, but getting those kids a great education. The last thing I would say is I've always been an advocate of public education, so I want to make sure we're doing whatever we can to make a robust system of good public education, because that's how I got my background, and many of us.
I think you said yesterday there are a couple of dozen schools that you think may be in a position that the state may have to take them over, in a sense, or get an emergency manager for. In light of some of the funding issues that we've been talking about in the Senate and the House and your own proposal, and some of these other changes, are you concerned that in addition to this plan, the state is going to have more emergency managers in more schools over the next, say, 6 to 10 months?
Well, it is a challenging environment, but again, one thing we did with the emergency manager legislation is create a better early warning system. So my goal there would be, how can we work with these districts to do reviews with them, to help do consent agreements, to do other things to hopefully avoid the emergency manager situation to begin with. And that's a good part of the legislation we did, was to be proactive and thoughtful about, let's keep them out of that status and let them succeed on their own.
Governor, as always, we appreciate you taking the time talking with us live from Lansing tonight, and of course we'll continue to follow this, the budget plan and the tax reform, as they move their way through the House and Senate. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rick.